This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for The Rant with Barbara Rose Brooker. But before we get started, Barbara, I want some people to know a little bit more about you because you are a novelist, you're an age activist, and you are the epitome of friendship. So I want people to understand that.
Thank you.
But I finished reading your book, Love Sometimes. And I've read 3 of your books. It's my favorite. And I want people to get out to Amazon and purchase it. But, if you don't have time to read because you're traveling in the car or you're sitting in your office doing other things, it's now available on Audible. And I believe it's 7 hours long?
Yes.
So, listen to it in segments. It is a beautiful story, very well written. And if you read it, I think you'll understand why Barbara is an age activist. So welcome to The Rant.
Thank you so much. And listeners, we have a real treat today. We have the legendary, and I really mean this, the legendary Mark Itkin.
Of course. Go ahead.
There's so much to say about Mark, and I don't want to waste the time with a long introduction. But Mark turned life into reality shows on TV, all our favorite shows from, oh my God, Big Brother, Real World, Fear Factor, so many more I'm not even listing that I will later. Mark, until 2015, was the co-partner at the worldwide famous William Morris Endeavor talent agency. He's also a Phi Beta Kappa lawyer, guest speaker at Harvard, and there's so many things to list that Mark has done and is doing in life. So I won't even say he retired because I think he just went on to do more fabulous, fabulous things. And before we start, listeners, I want you to meet Estelle. Estelle is his new, she's fairly new, isn't she, Mark?
Like she's a year and a half. The 19th.
Here, everybody, is the fabulous Estelle, who I think should have her own show. Just Estelle. I mean, oh, she's just that face on her. So Mark, there's so much to say about you. And first, thank you for being on the show. I'm really honored that you're on. And listeners out there are very fascinated with the inner makings, of course, of Hollywood and their favorite shows, which we watch over and over again, especially during the pandemic. We're all glued. What I want to know how you got from Bolt Law School in San Francisco, well, Bolt's in Berkeley, but you're from San Francisco as I am, how you went from Bolt and law into becoming the power agent. How's that transition? What inspired you?
I hated practicing law. I knew that I wanted to work in the entertainment business. And since I didn't have any connections and really, I had run the radio station at UCLA, KLA, and I knew I wanted to work in TV or radio, but I didn't know how to get into it really. And so I went to law school because I got accepted to a great law school, and I did want to move outside of Los Angeles because I'd never lived outside of Los Angeles. And went to law school, and it was an incredible experience. I loved going to Cal. I loved learning how to, to really analyze and think, but it just wasn't creative enough for me. Mm-hmm. And so after 2 years, I wasn't happy, and I was only 28 at the time, and I thought, well, you got to do this your whole life. You're not going to be good at something if you don't love doing it. And so I left, and I spent about, I guess it was about 10 months trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I had a very good sort of what people call a rabbi mentor friend named Lee Mims. And Lee Mims was a manager of the business. And he suggested that, he says, you know, I think you'd be a really good agent. Have you ever thought about it? And I really hadn't. So he introduced me to some of the people he did business with at the William Morris Agency. And I went in for a fact-finding meeting, and it sounded interesting. It sounded like, oh, kind of like going back to grad school to go into the mailroom. And so I interviewed, and I got the job, and I decided to do it. And after 6 weeks, they took me out of the mailroom because I was, you know, I mean, I had a law background. They put me on a desk as an assistant in what at the time was called variety TV, which basically was everything that wasn't scripted.
Oh my.
And so, you know, talk shows and sports and magazine shows and variety shows in prime time, you know, and so I went in there, and I knew I was in the right place because it was an area that I found interesting, and I had done a thesis at UCLA undergrad in communication studies on daytime television, which nobody really cared about. Everybody cares about primetime TV.
Right, daytime.
So I did this. I did this anyway. So when I got promoted in that department, and I thought, well, nobody's doing anything in this agency in daytime. Let me build a department, and I did, and it was signing clients in that arena that kind of moved me into the non-scripted or reality television. I don't call it reality because other than the real world, most of it is hybrid, real and manufactured. So I call it unscripted TV. And so I can explain to you sort of that journey also, but that's how I got into it.
That's so interesting. What was your first show? Because you are known as the quote father of reality TV. You are known as that. So what was the first show? What inspired you to make life into this unscripted package?
Well, the very, very first show I ever sold was called The Fan Club. And it basically was like MTV meets Entertainment Tonight. And it was hosted by, it was in 1984, it was hosted by a gymnast who had won a gold medal at the 84 Olympics named Mitch Gaylord. And so I sold that, then I sold a game show to NBC Daytime. But the first real, and then I sold American Gladiators.
Oh, right.
Packaged and sold American Gladiators. And that was really what sort of launched my career.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, a friend of mine in the business, a guy named Rich Colbert, who was a distributed syndicated product, he had a friend in New York who worked as a station rep. Station reps are people that pick programs for the stations that they represent. Mm-hmm. And in this case, in the syndication business. And he said, this guy's not really very excited about doing this anymore, but he's got ideas for television shows. Would you like to meet him? And I said, sure, why not? And a couple weeks later, John Murray was sleeping on my couch, and he brought some terrific ideas, but because he was an unknown quantity in LA and in the business, I needed to package him with a producer who had credibility. Mm-hmm. And so the first person I introduced him to was a woman named Jackie Smith, and she had been head of ABC Daytime, and she had put on, she was the person behind really revving up General Hospital and all those things in the 70s and the 80s. Oh my God. She had retired, and she said, you know what, I don't think I want to start anything new right now. And so I had this friend who was also a buyer of mine at New World. She'd been a soap opera producer named Mary Ellis Bunham, and I introduced the two of them. And they hit it off, and they formed a company called Bunham Murray. And Mary Ellis, one day I get a call from MTV, and MTV, Lauren Correo says to me, we want to do a scripted soap opera. Do you have anyone who can help us launch that? And I said, well, I happen to have this client. She's now part of a production company, Mary Ellis Bunham. She produced you know, Edge of Night and Secret Storm and Santa Barbara and all these soap operas for P&G and New World, she would be a great person to talk to. So I end up making a deal for Mary Ellis Bunham to help develop a scripted soap opera for MTV. And Mary Ellis says to me, once the deal is closed and she meets with them, she says, you know what, they're going to bail out of this in 6 months because it's going to be too expensive for them to do. And sure enough, within about 4 months, they bailed out of it. But what I didn't know until that time was that she and John had been working on a reality soap opera because they were very influenced by the PBS series in the 70s called American Family, about the Loud family.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember.
Which was really the very, very, very first reality television series.
Yes.
And so they came up with this idea of the real world, took it to MTV, pitched it. MTV ordered a pilot. They went to New York and shot the pilot. There was actually 2 pilots. And MTV loved it and then ordered the series of the real world. And we had to obviously recast it and do a new series. And we did it in New York, the first one. And the rest is history. They had 33 seasons of the real world, and it's coming back on Facebook.
I was going to ask if it's coming back. That's fantastic on Facebook. How long from that time to becoming a series did it take? How many years was that?
Oh, that was less than a year from
really?
the time it was pitched, piloted, and went on the air. I'd say it's probably a year total.
Oh my God, that is amazing. That is amazing. I have a question here. Yes. Okay. What I want to know, and I think a lot of people who aren't on the inside of Hollywood, they want to know what inspires you with a pitch. When somebody comes in and says, I've got this great pitch, Mark, this would be a great unscripted show or reality show. And you probably get thousands of them or all the time, drives you crazy, probably the pressures, the ups, the downs. What inspires you to say yes? What is it?
I get a feeling in my gut when I hear something that's new and fresh and different and has legs, that sounds like it's something that could be on for a while. Mm-hmm. I get a certain gut feeling about it. Sometimes my gut's not right. Sometimes, sometimes the show is, well, here's the thing. In my career, the toughest, longest sales were always the biggest successes, because usually if something's different and fresh, and simple, it's harder for buyers to see it. That's ironic, but that's the case. People overthink things, and people in the business are insecure, so they want to go to something that feels like something they've seen before, they've done before. But if you look in history of television, any of the game changers were always something new and fresh. They weren't a pure copy of something else, or maybe they took a piece of something that had been successful and re-engineered it or contemporized it. Probably one of the best examples of it is like American Idol. Yep. American Idol is amateur hour or Star Search, but rejiggered and contemporized.
That's so interesting what you said about your gut, because the law, putting things together and knowing how to package and, all the things that go into getting a show on the air, but also the creative part of you, the artistic part of you, that is the gut. That's what I say. That's the gut. So it's just like, I know that you collect contemporary art, which is so important, I think. And I can see some of it right there. But that also is not only knowledge, but it's also the gut too. So that is so interesting. So now what I want to know too, what shows inspired you growing up? Were you like a big TV watcher? Like, I read somewhere that I did read that you loved Lucy.
Yes.
I mean, I still love Lucy. I still watch those shows.
Absolutely.
What?
I have a DVD set of every episode, plus behind the scenes,
Oh, do
plus.
you really?
Oh yeah. No, I've seen.
Oh,
I went. They used to have this tour here in LA called a Graveline tour, and instead of showing you stars' homes, they'd show you where famous people had died or committed suicide or fallen off a building or whatever. And so they would pick you up in a hearse in front of the Chinese theater. And so I get in. I take my best friend. It was on my birthday. We go on the tour. We get in the car. And the driver looks across the street and he says, there's the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, famous for the first Academy Awards and on and on. And he says, and a very famous television person lived in that hotel. Does anyone on the tour know who it is? And I knew that Elizabeth Patterson, who played Mrs. Trumbull on the landlady on I Love Lucy, lived, because I've read every book about I Love Lucy. I'm just, a nerd about that. And the guy turns around to me and says, I've been driving this car for 8 years and nobody has ever known that. Anyway, so yeah, I'm a nerd about Lucy.
So Mark, since you're such a nerd, have you gone to Jamestown?
That's a great question, Karen. I was in New York last week on business. And I wanted to go, and it just was too complicated with COVID and everything. Have you been?
We've been 4 times. My husband lives for I Love Lucy.
Oh, I got to meet your husband.
Yes.
Oh.
And talk about the set. He has the set of all of her shows. And every time we go there, they have the Vegemita.
Vegemin.
And he stands behind it because you're allowed to do it. And he stands behind it and does her act. So I love it.
Do you know, I have to tell you something, but my partner, Bradley, owns the cigarette lighter from the original series.
Oh, wow.
And you can see it in the first 4 seasons. Whenever there's a cigarette being lit, it's either on the mantle or on the dining room table.
Yep.
He got it from, it's a long story, but he got it from a close friend who was a close friend of the set decorator of I Love Lucy.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I watched Lucy, the one with the bread coming out of the oven.
Yeah.
And I was screaming. You just want to see it again and again and again.
Whenever you don't feel well and you want to laugh, you stick it in I Love Lucy and it makes you feel better.
So the thing is, what is that ingredient? Or what in Ethel, of course, Ethel and Fred and then when they'd have the movie stars visit them and everything. Here I could go on and on about Lucy. So Mark, I want to ask you, you're also an author, because tell me about your books. Didn't you have a book recently published?
No, it hasn't been published, but I'm working on it. It's an autobiography, and it's also kind of the history of reality television.
Oh, good. That's good, because there aren't a lot of good ones out there. I know people give them to you for Christmas, and they're not, so you're really going into good, we'll all look forward to that.
Mark,
I should have probably hired you to co-write it with me. I have a co-writer out of New York, and he's wonderful. He's written a lot of biographies in the business, but having the space between us doesn't make it that easy sometimes.
I know. You'll have to Zoom it, I guess, or something.
Yeah.
You'll have to Zoom it. But
so when you talk about reality TV, you said something about it's not truly reality, it's scripted. So when I'm watching some of these programs, I know, and when I sort of sense, wait a second, they ask them to do this. That's really happening, huh?
Oh, you mean like the housewife shows and those kinds of
The housewife shows. And last night, we've made it a tradition in our house to watch The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, because we just giggle about the whole thing. And
Oh.
my son keeps saying to me, "That's staged. That's not staged." So those things really do happen, huh?
So reality television is a very broad umbrella. I mean, in there you include game shows and talk shows, and none of those things are and can't, because of quiz show scandals. All of that stuff is real. But in the docu-series area, like The Bachelor, Bachelorette, the Kardashians, the Housewives franchise, they're hybrids. They're basically, there's reality, but there are situations created, and some of the what I consider not really well produced ones are actually have scripts.
Got it.
Real world was never staged. What Bunim would say is they drop a pebble in the water and then let things happen.
That's exactly what.
And so the dialogue, the reactions, everything was real.
And it felt real. It felt.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Court, people's court.
Those are all real.
Those are all real. Fear factor.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a whole different.
Anything where there's a competition and a prize and people are winning money, that can't be staged.
Right.
But the more scripted docu-series type shows, they take a lot of creative license.
Got it. Okay.
I'm sure they do. What I want to know is during this pandemic now, and I won't use the word retirement for Mark because, first of all, I don't believe in the word retirement and I don't believe in age and all that.
Right.
But moving on to do new and other things, what are you? Are you still, I know you're still involved very much so in the industry, but is it inspiring you, this inclusion that we're all living to for new things creatively?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, my brain's always active, and I actually have been very fortunate to have sold a movie and 2 series during this time.
Oh my God. So exciting. You can't talk about it though. You don't have.
They all will be announced. Well, I'll tell you. I sold a new version of College Bowl to NBC.
Oh,
So you'll be here. I can't tell you who's going to host it but the announcement should be out this week. I represented Dr. Phil for many years, and so now I consult to his company, and we've sold a series for next summer to CBS.
Oh, I think that's wonderful.
And a movie, so.
Congratulations, because I'm sure you're going to do fabulous things. Your book's going to be fabulous.
I hope so. Thank you.
The process is rough, but I think it's going to be fabulous. And I think Estelle is going to have her own show. What could be a show with dogs? To me, dogs have more emotional intelligence than people. And instinct,
definitely,
activity and lovingness, everything. Why
yeah.
do we have it? I know there's films about dogs, but I could see a show from Estelle's point of view, her voice,
If you go to, she has an Instagram, her own Instagram site called Estelle the Basset. And you'll see there's some commentary and stuff by her on it.
Oh my God, that is amazing. Karen, we have to do a show on that.
Well, I think so. I mean, she's better than Mr. Ed.
There's you'll see if you go online on Facebook, there was a commercial actually for Facebook groups that had a bunch of Basset Hounds on the beach. And so there's a lot of Basset Hound groups because they have so much personality, and yet they're not that popular of a dog.
I wonder why, because there's nothing cuter than a Basset Hound.
I agree. I don't know. I don't think people, dogs have, I think they go through trends, now it's all Labradoodles and things like that, but maybe there'll be a time for the Basset Hound. I don't know.
Wasn't there a show in the 50s and the actor had a Basset Hound?
Critics' Choice.
Oh my God.
Shows how old I am.
Cleo.
Yes, yes.
Oh, remember Cleo?
And Columbo had a basset hound.
Yep,
He had a
yep.
basset hound dog, and there've been there've been smatterings of it, but
Does Estelle comfort you during the process of work and writing and all of that? She does. It's a comfort level as well.
she's a cuddler.
A
You
cuddler.
know, she'll just cuddle, and she's loving, and she has her high energy moments because she's a puppy still, but she's a really lovely, and she's very smart.
They're supposed to be
Very much smarter than any other basset hound I've ever owned. She's really smart.
You sound like a proud dad.
Well, maybe she's too smart.
It's incredible. So
I don't think she knows she's a dog. I think she thinks she's a person.
Absolutely.
well,
You know?
you know something? I mean, what is a person? Oh, you know,
Right.
what humanity? Look what we have in the world right now. They're not
I
even
know. Yeah.
You're Estelle, you know. But I think a creative person like yourself, what fascinates me is your creativity and the combination of the business end that really must have taken, and probably and still does, of course, but I mean, to get all these shows on the air, an amazing amount of instinct, pressure, knowledge, inner workings, and with all the different kinds of people you had to work with. Oh my God, that alone can.
Yeah. That's why a book can be written.
Oh, I hope that's all going to be in the book. So
As much as I can tell, yeah.
So I'm not gonna keep you that long. I can't tell you what a pleasure and honor it is to have you, and you're fun.
Well, thank you, Barbara.
You're fun. So
Thank you. And by the way, I am halfway through your new book. So and I'm going to finish it very soon. But Karen's right. I mean, it's a terrific book.
thank you.
It's a great story, and it's very autobiographical, I know, and because I can relate to some of the people in there also who I know in your family, and it's a lovely book.
Thank you. I'm very honored you said that. You made my year because it's such a what a journey with.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I'm going to ask you 4 words. I'm going to play the game. I also read you love games and words and so forth and so on. So we can, before we end this, if the listeners want to contact you, where can they contact you? What is your website again?
Well, I don't really have they could probably write to me at toughlambmedia.com, Mark at toughlambmedia.com. But I just don't want any project submissions or anything like that.
That would be, oh my God, can you see all the pitches coming today? No, that you don't need. But everyone, listeners, you have to watch for Mark Itkin's book when it comes out. I'm sure it will be a bestseller because I'm sure it's going to be authentic and have truth, because there's very few Mark Itkins who are the inside industry who really made TV shows alive that we still watch. It's such a business, and to be a power agent like Mark, and a great person too, is like amazing.
Thank you, Barbara. That's very
So I did read that you like games, so I'm throwing out 4 words, and all you have to say is 1 word or nothing. I'll say Estelle.
Loving.
Perfect. Media.
Exciting.
Let's see, what else did I put? Hope. It's a big one.
I have so much of it. I know it's not 1 word. Hope. Essential.
Oh, that's a good one.
Love that.
I love that. Those 3 words now, that's a whole show in itself. Thank you for those.
Sure.
And thank you for today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
And Karen and I send you all our admiration. I speak
Absolutely.
for Karen too. We've talked, we're fans. We love you, and we can't wait to see more of everything. By the way, I watch Dr. Phil every day.
And I'm sure he appreciates that too, you know.
I do. Thank you, Mark.
And Karen, I want to meet your husband, because there aren't that many people that you can really that go to the Jamestown, to the museum 4 times.
Well, every time we go to visit my family up in Saratoga Springs, New York, we have to stop for the day. So yeah.
Okay.
Again.
Okay.
Question. I do recognize, I think, that painting, but I'm not sure by the hand. That is.
It's let me see if I can. It's Tony Bevan. He's a British artist.
Oh.
And it's called The Choir Boys.
Oh, I think it's
Beautiful.
And there's Estelle on the couch.
Oh, where's Estelle?
Oh.
Oh, goodbye, Estelle, the next big star.
She doesn't know where the voice is coming from. And there's my picture with President Obama, which I'm proud of. So.
Oh, I
Very
have.
nice.
Oh, with you. There's. Oh my God. Oh my God. That is such a treasure.
That's a treasure.
Oh.
How wonderful is that?
Yeah.
Oh.
You know what I say? 2 great human beings.
Oh,
and there aren't a lot of them, believe me.
no, believe me, this has been a real test.
So I know. You're a baby still. Thank you very
We're
much.
lucky to live in California, I say. I mean, I know, Karen, you don't, but I think we're lucky to live here.
Yeah, I'm living in a state that doesn't agree with me right now, so I get it. I get it.
Well, just stay safe.
Everybody's
And you too.
And I just want people to remember that agemarch.org is coming up in March, March the 6th.
And it's sponsored by Revitalash, which I'm very excited about. And 2 major producers are in production right now with the first Age March in history. And it's about celebrating age pride. I'm hoping before I leave the planet, or when I do, that like Gay Pride every year, this Age Pride will integrate.
Absolutely.
Have you ever read this book?
The Good Fight. No.
I need to read that book.
This is a great, great book about all of the different groups and ethnicities that have fought in this country over the years. I'm reading it now. It's fantastic.
I'm putting that down right now. I have been told to read that book.
They need to have ageism in here. They don't really have that in this book.
Well, no, but this is the first virtual Age March in history in March. I'll be in touch. I'll let everybody know.
Okay.
Well, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.